Hello everyone, I'm Wardy and today we're going to be having a Year of Rain video, the brand new RTS that just went into closed beta yesterday. I will link down below in the description, of course, where you can sign up for beta if this video interests you, want to get your hands on the game yourself, and want to try it out for yourself, and maybe then this video will become applicable to you, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be having a little run through how to get started in the Year of Rain, some of the stuff that you need to know that you might not know already. This video is very much so focused around, first of all, just kind of what should I do the first time I open the game. Talks about a couple of things that are unique to a Year of Rain, such as the role system and the armor system. And then you're going to talk a bit about jumping into your first matches and what you want to keep in mind, what you want to remember to make that experience as smooth as possible. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. Don't forget, if you like the video, hit that like button, and of course do not forget to subscribe to the channel, because if this goes well, I would love to start making some more A Year of Rain content for you all. So that's the plan, and let's jump right on into it with our first little bits and pieces, which is going to be picking your race and hero. So whether you're playing skirmish or you're jumping into a custom game, there's a couple different ways you end up picking your race and hero in the custom game lobby. If I just make one here for you quickly to show you guys, it's basically very simple. You put yourself on a race, you put yourself on a hero, and you click that. That's it, you're set. And also, guys, don't forget, if you are hosting lobbies, don't start the game until everyone's had a chance to set their race and hero. That happened to me yesterday. I had to play the Paladin, and, well, they paid for it, put it that way. But yes, when you're here on the skirmish page as well, you've got some better graphics to do it, and you've got two factions to choose from right now. As of this video, the Outcasts are not currently released, House Reaper and Undead. Now, the game's very new. We've already been seeing it throughout the technical alpha and so on, so there's going to be a lot of stuff figured out. So honestly, I would say dive in and just have a bit of fun and see what you fancy the most. The human race seems to be a bit more sort of straightforward in terms of you've got your, spearmen who just melee, you've got your rangers, you've got your healers, pretty traditional stuff. Whereas the undead have some more fun stuff where it's like, oh, you can raise skeletons, there is some lifesteal and things like that. That is a little bit more fun as well. Undead, I feel, has a couple of things which interact a lot better when it comes to hero usage as well, abilities that kind of go hand in hand. It's not necessarily more powerful by any means, it just maybe is also a bit more complex, I would say, Undead, but not to the point of, if you're starting out, that you should stick to House Reaper, the human race. If you want to jump in on the Undead, jump in on the Undead. What I'm trying to say is, there's not really a right or wrong choice right now, it's about having fun trying it out. One more thing I will say is that the Undead have an ability on their Mausoleum, which is their main central structure, which allows you to summon zombies to mine or summon skeletons to defend. And to be effective with Undead, you should be casting that ability as much as often to mine extra stuff. So if you're not used to the idea of a macro mechanic from StarCraft, for example, maybe that's going to be a little bit tough to get used to and to get in your head to keep on remembering to do that. So it might make that Undead race that little bit harder. Okay guys, so let's talk about the heroes you want to be picking, or the heroes and what they do, just to give you a quick rundown. Again, the game's super new, there's a lot to be figured out. I'm mostly going off of technical alpha experience and going off of what I've seen in the competition where people have been playing in the Undead Championship. So we've got the House Reaper and Undead. I just did a take of this where I just skipped between them and I realized that was hella confusing. So let's start with the humans and who you can expect to see here. The human hero, I'm going to start from the back though, because the Spark Mage has seen the most playtime from the human heroes. She's a powerful fire mage. She has a not a stun, but a chain, fiery chains, which kind of locks you in position. It roots you. That's the word I was looking for. So you've got a root. You're going to have a fireball, which is an AoE cast. You can summon an elemental, and her ultimate is insanely powerful. It's a big ember storm. It kills things.
Easy prey.
Moving down the list, the Ranger is the second most seen human hero so far, and is very good at nuking down the caster heroes, because he's got a very powerful ability called Relentless Hero, which increases damage done and reduces movement speed on its target. He can destroy a hero if you give him the chance. I personally feel he's a little bit weaker when it comes to creeping at the moment, and when it comes to fighting against the units of the other teams. And so if you play a Ranger, you definitely want to be pairing him with someone who can clean out the kind of units a bit faster. You definitely want a character that has some form of AoE. And finally we arrive on the Paladin, who has honestly been played the least, have not really seen them much. They are, I feel they've got their uses, it's just you kind of got to realize, oh hey, you know, we've got to, you know, you've got to play carefully, you've got to think about what you're doing. I played a bit of Paladin in the closed beta last night already, actually, and it was very fun. Dawnblade is a very cool charging cleave, which actually, when powered up, does quite a lot of damage. But being a melee hero really feels as though the biggest issue is disengaging. You don't have very many ways to get out of trouble very easily. While Dawnblade, you know, you charge and you attack. When you're waiting for that on cooldown, when you want to escape, is not so brilliant. The Paladin also comes with a Lay on Hands, which is a heal, and also a Fear of No Darkness ability, which is apparently, it shields the Paladin and it concentrates damage to the Paladin, so very good for tanking. And that's definitely what the Paladin should be used for, because the ultimate is also a protection spell. So, creates a little bit of tanking and so on to your army. Whether the Paladin's something you want to jump in on right away, it's a bit tougher to play than the ranged heroes, put it that way. And we're going to talk about the undead heroes here. So I'm going to start again on the one we've seen the most playtime from, the Wraith. And the Wraith has been just this caster who has a lot of fun stuff. Horror Decay, the Q ability, is an AoE. The W ability, Death Blossom, is damage done in a line, and if you use that damage done in a line, it actually pops your AoE to spawn it a little bit faster, so a cool little interaction there. And the E is a Fear, which can be very useful, not only to get away and to escape, also you can fear opponents back into your AoE damage, and it's actually being used as a very good way of engaging. The ultimate basically allows you to empower one of those abilities and, you know, let it be that much stronger. The Wraith is absolutely currently the go-to choice for undead, and it is absolutely the easiest to play. It's great at creeping, it's great at cleaning out enemy units, and it's also great in fights against heroes. There is nothing wrong with the Wraith. So moving down the undead hero list, we have the Revenant, who is going to be your kind of assassin melee character. He really revolves around this bleed mechanic, so his Q dots nearby enemies with a bleed effect. Dots have been damage over time, just in case we're being very beginner friendly. I think you guys got that one. So the bleeds have an effect on two of his other abilities. His W ability, first of all, absorbs bleed nearby and gives him a heal, so he has a bit of sustain while jumping in, which he does with his E ability. He jumps in, pulling in nearby enemies, so he can really jump on you. And then his ultimate is actually going to be, you strike a target and you hit for extra damage based on how many bleeds are around. So ideally you want to kind of jump into a pack, whack a bunch of bleeds on, drop your ultimate, and, you know, on maybe the hero or something, and then absorb all those bleeds so you're healed up from any damage you've taken, because you've just jumped straight into the middle of everything. Very fun character, a lot of potential, really interested to see some more gameplay from him, because those bleeds, I feel like it's got a bit of a learning curve compared to the Wraith, because obviously you've got to learn how to control the bleeds, etc. But I feel like there's a lot of cool potential with the life stealing and so on and so forth. Our final character, our final hero from the Undead is the Fallen Marshal, a tanky melee character who really just has a bunch of very tanky based mechanics, only kind of altered to kind of fit in line with the Undead sort of lore, I suppose. His first ability teleports him to a unit dealing damage, and that also will summon a skeleton if you manage to get a kill on that unit. And that's very interesting because a skeleton is therefore a free unit, and it will take damage without it actually costing you damage on your units you spent money for. So that's a big thumbs up from me, if you can make the most use of that. Second ability, Overwhelming Dread, very simple. You pull in enemies, you deal damage. It's, you know, you're meant to be trying to pull enemies towards you, right? You're trying to be the center of attention, you're meant to try and take damage, and that's because you have quite a lot of sustain as well, because you have the March of the Regiment, which is your E ability, that makes you immune to crowd control and also gives you 15% life leech, so any damage you deal in that time is going to be giving you some healing, so it allows you to really stay in the fight quite successfully. And your ultimate is kind of interesting too. It also gives you damage and lifesteal, increased damage and lifesteal, and it gives creates a wall of bones that just blocks units in, so it's a big crowd control, which is very, very interesting to see how that goes down. So yeah, very interested to see how that plays out, because we haven't seen a lot of him in competitive play, so really intrigued to see him play out in the closed beta. So guys, as soon as you jump into a Year of Rain, whenever you go in-game, you're going to get a couple things pop up on your screen. First of all, you have your base, and you can start making units, aka workers. You want to make a worker straight away, and you're going to want to start building your first building straight away. But that's not really what I want to talk about just yet. What I do want to talk about is this screen that shows up on your left-hand side. The role selection. The roles are one of the unique things to A Year of Rain, and right now they're pretty basic, but they are going to be reworked a little bit. So, for the House Ripar, you've got 3 different options. And there's 3 different options on each race, so I'm just going to quickly run through them. It's tank, DPS, and support. And actually, for House Rupar, it's pretty simple. If you're a tank, you reduce damage taken on your knights and spearmen. If you're damage, you increase your damage done by Pathfinders and a couple of the other units. There's one more that I'm forgetting the name of right now. And if you're support, you just have increased healing, which is coming in very useful on your clerics. And also the paladin could be a pretty good kind of support hero as well. You don't necessarily have to play a specific hero for a specific role to make sense. We've seen tanking, support, and damage wraiths in the tournament, for example. In general, you can go for whichever hero you want at the moment. Maybe at some point the meta will develop that as a very clear favorite, but for now, play whatever hero you want with each role. What I would suggest is talk to your teammate, and when you talk to your teammate, make sure you've picked roles which make sense. So tank and damage, or damage, tank and support, are some popular combinations, but they're not the only combinations in the game, so keep that in mind as well. And let's have a look at the undead heroes that we could, or the undead roles that we can have in this game as well. So we've got the undead roles here to have a little bit of a look at, of course, and again, it's tank, damage, and support. Now, they do some things a little bit differently. The tank regenerates health. This is really nice, I think, if you get to the late game, because especially on the larger map, Thirsty Sands, there is no healing well, and so if there's no healing well, it's very difficult to heal up your units. So this actually gives you a lot of longevity. If you can keep units alive, it really rewards you for keeping units alive after a fight, pulling them back and letting them recuperate. The damage is basically a damage over time ability that gets stuck on targets. Really nice if you have a bunch of, especially like flame skulls, which are ranged units. If you get like 10 flame skulls to hit something, and it's like low but not quite dead, it's going to die from the dot, so that's pretty nice. And you've also got support, which allows you to slow the target. That's going to be casted by some of the caster units. It's actually quite nice as well, because there's a lot of control. It allows you to hunt down units a bit more easily, and guarantee some kills that you might not usually get. So, all 3 are very interesting. Again, they definitely work a little bit differently to the human race, and maybe just a little bit more different compared to what you'd expect them to be. So one of the other things in A Year of Rain is the armor system, and essentially the combat triangle. If you're someone who's played RuneScape, this actually might be quite familiar to you.
Yes, sir.
The idea that certain unit and armor types are strong against other certain unit armor types, and certain attack types are strong against those armor types. So, to break it down simply, you've got melee, ranged, and magic characters. And each melee character has normal attacks with heavy armor, ranged characters have pierce attacks with medium armor, and magical characters have magic attacks with light armor. So, not to be horrible or anything, but this is how the combat triangle works. Melee users are particularly strong against range users. So if you come over here and my pure Pathfinder is going to get attacked, stabbed in the back.
Where am I needed?
Cleric, buddy? You just auto-cast an ability on my Pathfinder. Okay, I get you want to heal them up. There you go, that's one of the uses of clerics, guys. If we attack the Pathfinder and then run away, you can see the Pathfinder drop to about 232 health there. So that's about 18 damage with this stab. Now, our cleric here is going to get stabbed, and that's only going to be 7 damage. And that's because melee users are stronger than range users. They are good against range users. So melee beats range. To continue the triangle, melee, when we attack here, is going to attack onto 300 health and do, what, 273? So that's math on the video. 27 damage. If you have the range user attacking the melee user, boom. It's only going to take you down about 12 damage. So it's a big, almost, it's a double damage difference and more. So melee beats range, range beats magic, and magic on the other side as well. We'll let the spearman heal up to full health. Any second now. We could have cut this out, but we won't. 349, 350, that'll do. boom. Attack takes them down to 16 damage, and over here the attack is going to take the Pathfinder down to 7 damage. So you can see the basic of the combat triangle. You've got melee beats range users, range beats magic users, magic units beat melee units. So typically, if your opponents are going for a melee range heavy composition, you kind of want to have like a magic, a magic set of units which can break down the melee units, and then melee units of your own to hit the range units. In general, we've seen a lot of compositions that are very melee range based. And what I'm really excited with the closed beta is the idea that people will start finding compositions to be able to fight back a little bit. So, yeah, keep that in mind. That's definitely the combat triangle that's going to be very, very useful to know. And it's going to be your basis of counters in this game. So, obviously, this was just done with the Spearman, the Pathfinder, and the Cleric. But when you mouse over these buildings, or the buildings, and then into the tooltips in the bottom right where my camera is, you can't see it, but you can see what pops up. It tells you melee unit, ranged unit, melee unit. If I click on the temple, magical unit, ranged unit. So it tells you kind of what you can expect each unit is, so then you can find out a bit more. And from there, it's just about having some fun and figuring it all out. So how do you get started in a Year of Rain? Honestly, it comes down to basics, and there's just a few things I think that you want to remember right away. I'm just in a game by myself here, so this is obviously going to be a complete recognition of what usually happens. But the first thing you want to do is start building workers and keep building workers, because you want to make sure that this Enorium mine is full 5 out of 5, and you're going to want to start mining the wood. Obviously, I've kind of skipped over the very basic idea that you've got 2 resources in this game, Enorium and lumber. So you generally want to keep building workers until you've at least got 5 on the mine, and probably at least 5 on wood, plus maybe a worker or 2 to build, a worker or 2 to scout around the map, and of course at some point you want to be expanding as well. Your first building can be built pretty quickly, so you want to take note of that. Your initial structure is going to be the same every time. There is one structure to build early on, and that is, for the human race House Rupert, it's the barracks. For the undead, it's the desecrated battleground. It's your basic structure that allows you to then start building units. Don't forget, of course, you want to pick your role in the game as well, and do communicate with your teammate as to what you're going to do. And I think the next big thing is pick one of these build order guides. If you're new to the game, it's a great way to get into. You click select and boom, it's going to tell you what you should be doing at each supply. And it's a good little, you don't have to stick to it, it's not going to tell you off if you don't. But it's a really nice little something to kind of help you along the way. It just gives you a goal to get to, right? And it changes based on if you play tank, damage, or support. After about a minute and a half, your hero comes into play, and that's when you're going to want to start creeping up a little bit. That's when you're going to want to start going in towards a stage of the game where you can press forwards and, start cleaning up these creeps. Don't forget, when your hero spawns, you can get your first ability. Now, if you press V as the hotkey to learn ability, and then QWE based on what you want to learn, obviously each hero is different on what would be good, and you can start creeping up and get going in the game, and of course you tech from there. I would, again, if you don't want to experiment much yourself, don't be afraid to start going in towards that build order guide and just going from there and following that a little bit. Creep up, get some experience, level up, and of course there's a lot more in-depth stuff to talk about there, but that's basically the effective start of what you want to do. From here, once you've been creeping up, maybe you get into some fights, you build in some units. The most important thing is not forgetting to expand, because this Enorium mine, we've been in game 2.5 minutes. We've already had 1,500 out of 5,000 resources on it. So you want to be pretty quick in terms of making sure you get towards an expansion. And from there, it's going to be obviously a bit harder to hold, but you kind of do really need it, because otherwise you fall into so much trouble, because that main base will mine out and you're going to find yourself stuck with pretty much only the units you have left. So eventually you want to make your way to these expansions. They have 6,000 resources, and again, it just gives you that little bit more longevity in the game. And that's all I'm going to tell you guys in terms of how to start up. Again, simple. Build workers, get your first structures down early, follow the in-game build guides if you don't want to explore yourself, and make sure you start creeping up effectively and have an expansion in mind. I would say those are the 5 most important things to do when getting into this. Of course, there's so much more in-depth stuff to talk about. I'm sure I'll be looking at that in a future video. And that is it, guys. That's going to be my tips and tricks beginner's guide video for Year of Rain closed beta, which really, again, was just trying to cover the basics, how to jump in, how to get started, how to enjoy this beta. I'm really enjoying playing. I hope you guys will be as well. And please let me know what you thought in the comments down below. If you've got any questions about the game, I'll be reading the comments. I'll be answering any questions you may have. So definitely feel free to ask away. Obviously, join the Discord server for Year of Rain. They've got great questions and help going on in there. And that should be a great way for you guys to be able to get on top of your Year of Rain closed beta. Have great fun with the game, guys. Again, the link to sign up for the beta if you didn't already is in the comment description. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you thought. Any sort of feedback is greatly appreciated because it's the first time I've ever done anything kind of like this. So thanks so much, and I'll see you guys in a future Year of Rain video soon, I would hope.